Hey guys, today we're going to be devoting a whole video to talking about deck lockdown. So honestly, in Master Duel especially, I don't see any reason to keep deck lockdown. So the only deck that is really being played that is able to play through deck lockdown is Tier Limit, but it's still not the best. So with Tier Limit, you actually have the option to send with Kick Kelos, and you're doing a lot of milling. So if you either open like Rhino or the card that wants to be Rhino but isn't actually Rhino, if you know what I'm talking about. So there's that card as well. Supreme Sea Mare. And then we have Sharon, Havness. These guys can still mill, right? So Kelos was probably going to send your copy of Tier Kashtira to the graveyard anyways, so you're fine in that department. If you're playing Tier pretty much exactly. Other decks that might be unaffected by deck lockdown include, like, I guess, Runic, Stun. So, yeah, just essentially decks that do nothing. Or, I guess, something like Burn. But, alright, what if you have pretty much any sort of combo? You are going to lose to deck lockdown. And if you guys don't know what deck lockdown does, deck lockdown is one of the most disgusting cards. Like, just period. So, imagine getting Colossus, but worse. That's deck lockdown for you. So, yeah. Neither player can add cards from the hand, or neither players can add cards from the deck to their hand, except by drawing them. Monsters cannot be special summoned from the main deck. Destroy this card during your second standby phase after activation. So this card has a lot of things that might not be immediately clear as to why this card is so disgusting. So first off, this card is not really playable if you were going second. And, you know, that's fine. But you know what else would be playable? Like, that playable, I suppose? Card like Rivalry. But the big thing about this is how oppressive this is going first. So, you can just randomly get sacked by a deck lockdown. And this card technically affects both players, right? As you can see by the first line, neither player. And this might seem like, oh, then it's fair. Of course not. Any floodgate that says neither player doesn't really care about either player, you know? Because they probably set up, like, I don't know. Just for example, your opponent could do a full super heavy samurai combo and then activate this at the end of their turn. Truly, neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand, except for the, like, 12 searches that the going first player did first, and also the special summons from the main deck, like just 4 or 5, you know, as you do. And then you activate deck lockdown, so yeah, that's fun and healthy, surely. So you have a full end board plus this. And of course, this is arguably more disgusting than Thunder Dragon Colossus. And this applies to pretty much every single spell trap, floodgate, or anything like that, right? In general, back row is always going to be kind of stronger and harder to interact with. So if we go into like if you go into any of your decks, or if I go into any of my decks, you'll see that the options for dealing with monsters is usually much higher than the options to deal with back row. And that's another element which makes this surprisingly much worse to deal with than Colossus. But let's assume because you open deck lockdown, you don't have a playable hand for whatever reason. Maybe you got hand trapped on something, so you can't fully extend, right? Well, no worries. It's deck lockdown. Question here that you got asked now. Two questions. First, does your opponent have backer removal? Not likely. In Master Duel, you'll find like maybe 1 to 2 main deck backer removal cards. So, uh, what are the odds of opening like any backer removal here? Like 20%? Not very high. So you only lose 1 out of 5 games if you consider this. Not that that's actually true because you would probably usually also have more cards than deck lockdown, so I guess there's that, right? But also, if we look here at the last line, destroy this card during your second standby phase after activation. So that means after you activate deck lockdown, the player that will first be able to play not under deck lockdown is actually going to be the one who activated deck lockdown, which is even more unfair. So let's just say my opponent is on Snake Eye, because why not? And my opponent pretty much completely cannot play under deck lockdown. And if I have like deck lockdown plus imperm, I can negate Nightmare Phoenix, and then my opponent probably has like nothing they can really do to out deck lockdown. And it would take generally, well, it depends exactly what my opponent opened, but it can take between 1 to 2 turns to make an just a Nightmare Phoenix under deck lockdown with Snake Eye. If you do not open like a Diabellstar or a Kushtira Unicorn, you'll have to like normal summon Snake Eye Ash, no effect, then normal summon Snake Eye Ash, or actually you can't normal summon Snake Eye Ash again because Nightmare Phoenix requires 2 different names, so you would be like normal summon Snake Eye Ash, no effects, because you can't activate either of them. Normal summon Poplar, can't activate either of them. Then link off, discard a card, get impermed, and that's it, I guess, right? So that's how much effort it would take to out deck lockdown in just through Snake Eye. Assuming you're even running Nightmare Phoenix, so I guess there's that. So yeah, if we were to draw 2, decent chance we can draw into something that lets us play. And then on the second standby phase after the activation of this card, easy win, maybe. Your opponent can technically draw into more hand traps, I guess, but it is what it is. And with all those things combined, I think the card, not very healthy for the game. And this is actually just ridiculously splashable, which is another reason why I very much dislike this card. But just to go over some decks this affects, just let's just look through real quick. So, alright. Live Twin. Don't work. You summon a guy from the main deck. Altergeist. Meluseek is your best starter, so you can't use this. So, if deck lockdown is active, unless you open, I believe, like Meluseek plus Pukri plus Marionetter, you cannot get past Hextia. But if you have technically like all 3 of those cards in your hand, you should be able to make a Primbachi. If you also open Multi-Faker, Haunted Rock is able to activate and allow you to special summon Multi-Faker, allowing you to barely get into Adminia. So, that's not very great, I guess. But okay. Mirror Sword Knight. This special summons a Chimera monster from your main deck. So, that doesn't work. Just something that mentions Chimera Fusion, whatever. So, that does not work. Weidel, that effect to search does not work. The effects to search, just in general, do not work. So any cards that search, those don't work. So that includes this rescue ace card here, Emergency. This does absolutely nothing under lockdown. And let's see what else does nothing. Most of the rescue ace main deck cards actually just do nothing. So the only things that I guess kind of do things are Rescue Ace Preventer and Turbulence. If you somehow can get enough Rescue Ace cards into the graveyard and then trigger Turbulence, Turbulence can still activate, I guess. Good luck with doing that under lockdown though, honestly. even worse technically if you're not playing Pier. If you're playing like Snake Eye Rescue Ace, it should be pretty much or more or less impossible to resolve Turbulence. I don't really see it happening. Well, not under lockdown at least. Volcanic. You can add one Volcanic card from your deck to your hand. First line. So that's not really going to be playable. Dinosaur. You run 3 copies of Fossil Dig. Normal Summon Soul Eating Oviraptor searches a card. Anima Adorned also searches cards, just for example. So that's not gonna work. Pearly gets completely railed, so all of your spell traps special summon guys from deck, so that doesn't work. Uh, Lily and Pearly are not adding cards by drawing, which means doesn't work. So excavate, then add, like a card like that. So prosperity, that does not work under deck lockdown. So yeah, Lily and Pearly don't work. And also you can't summon these guys from your deck using your quick play spells, so Pearly gets Giga Shafted unless you open like let me think. Yeah, you would have to open Pearly and then uh, a quick play. So that's about your only hope. There are better quick plays, I guess, to open, technically, to an extent. My friend can't activate as well, and I believe that is a 3-0. Continuing on. Oh yeah, Hero is Giga unplayable. So sure, you'd be able to like summon Increase, but Increase can't summon any guys. You can't use your Stratos for anything. Yeah, that doesn't really get you anywhere. Branded, it doesn't really work. I think Sword Soul doesn't really work either because you would want to maybe cheese out effect, but I guess you might be trying to go for Boxia effect if going second. So Sword Soul, kind of whatever. Sword Soul going second is eh. Depends on what 10 U's you open, honestly. Not super worth talking about. Mech Knight does searches as well. So yeah, not looking great. And Malariana searches. Super Heavy Samurai, completely unplayable. Vanquished Soul, not playable. Um, Vernaself. I think this is actually maybe playable if they go to the graveyard first and then onto the field. I think that works. Maybe. I don't know how many Vernaself cards actually search. So uh this one I'll just say I think it's not playable. Adventure package. You can't do any searching, so pretty awkward. Nothing you can do with Faithful. So you can summon a token, and then what? You can't search Draco back. You can't search like a Legal Knight or Griffin Rider, so not great in those regards. Blackwing, Hella searches. I mean, if we just go through the deck, basically, way more decks are going to just get completely crippled due to deck lockdown. Even the decks before that did not add from the deck to the hand will still end up getting crippled because of the other effect being so, I guess, oppressive. But yeah, because of this, deck lockdown is actually deceptively strong. Like, you guys might not have realized this, but deck lockdown can of course be played uh, um, with a deck that is super bad into deck lockdown. And you might be thinking, now, wait a minute. Of course you can. But did you guys think about the mirror? So if I am playing Gujtira, I can full combo with my unicorn and then make whatever, right? So I do unicorn, whatever, will combo, and then you end on whatever you end on, depending on your exact hand. So, example we're going to be using this time around is Kishtira. So, if our opponent is also playing Kishtira, now tell me, what can my opponent do here? Let's assume, just generously, I guess, I might Arise Art Pass or something like that. If my opponent does like special summon unicorn, they're just staring down my Arise Art with a unicorn that cannot activate the effect to do like anything, pretty much. So you can't search anything with this unicorn. And even if you could search something with this unicorn, it wouldn't really matter because, uh, well, with Theosis here, you can't actually special summon a Kishira monster with a different attribute from your deck in defense position because of lockdown. So, yeah, that doesn't really help you out. Kishira Birth, you would get like a normal summon, I guess. Like, let's pretend for a second we have Birth, Unicorn, and Fenrir, alright? What does this really accomplish? Once you go Battle Phase, I'll just banish Fenrir face down, and then your one of Fenrir is gone forever. Your Unicorn is able to banish one of my extra deck cards and then do nothing. Very epic. And yeah, I guess that's where you pass start because there's literally no other cards for you to activate at this point in time. Unless maybe you can try for like Rise Art effect to banish a guy and then special summon that guy. In that case, when you special or normal summon Rise Art, I might be like tempted to banish an XYZ, but now that I think about it, there isn't even a single good rank 7 to really worry about. Rise Art is just annoying because it gives you access to Fenrir, assuming you have Birth. But even then, if you trigger like Rise Art's effect to special summon, I'll probably trigger my Fenrir that I probably have. Good chance this is true, and then gets banished. So, yeah. Essentially, you're not doing very epic here. So that'd be a mirror. And of course, some decks actually can't play this, so notably, Vanquish Soul does need to search on your opponent's turn, Flaundries as well. Somewhat. But if you do all of your searches on turn 1, like Cash for example, the mirror is literally just so free. Simply because you went first, and you have deck lockdown. It will not even be remotely close. Yes, for example, let's say we're playing, of course, Snake Eye. This is so splashable, it's disgusting, but yeah. So let's say we Snake Eye, full combo, and then we just drop the lockdown. The only thing we lose out on is like Poplar and Snake Eye Ash search for next turn, but does it really matter that we can't do this? Like, I don't think it actually matters. So when Flamberge summons these guys back, oh, woe is me. Can't search anything on my opponent's turn. But of course, I mean, if we were to have Diabellstar, we can just Diabellstar, send our own lockdown the next turn, and then yeah, we can just play like again. And even though we can't search, we can still summon Oak to add back like a Snake Eye Ash to our hand, and that's honestly sometimes just good enough, right? And also worth mentioning is if we have activated original Sinful Spoils, this will be in the graveyard to allow us to search a card as well. So, yeah, this is kind of doing work here. And let's see, just for example, if I was playing Pearly and I did this, I just, let's say, end on, I guess arguably the best Pearly board you can do. Utopic Draco Future, and then 2 copies of X Pearly Noir, and then I drop the deck lockdown on you. Like, how are you going to be playing here? That seems a bit ridiculous to win under these circumstances without, like, maybe one of 2 or 3 lists that can actually win. That were you open evenly matched, I guess, in which case, you know. That's great because there are no spell trap negates here. For this deck specifically. But here's an example of a deck that would be giga and fun to play against with deck lockdown. So if I am playing DD, we can have Diaz Machinex, deck lockdown, 2 or 3 dark contracts, pretty consistent, honestly. And then we can have DDD, D, Curse King Siegfried, Baron, and then DDD, the Headhunt, and then Wave High King Caesar. So does that seem playable to anyone, or no? Because I don't think it really is. So yeah, uh, deck lockdown, kind of ridiculous right now. And the primary thing that makes lockdown disgusting, in my opinion, is, well, lack of decks that can play into a deck lockdown. So that is the primary #1 issue. The other thing with deck lockdown is, of course, splashability. So if you're going first, technically on like I'd say 90% of end boards, you'd be able to just slap a deck lockdown at the end of your turn, and then just pass, and you're just fine. And your opponent is going to have to play under your end board, plus the heinous conditions of deck lockdown. So the primary issue, I think, might be not only that it's back row, but it's way more splashable than something like a skill drain. Of course, skill drain is like auto win against like some decks in the same way like deck lockdown will be, but like honestly, the majority of decks will lose to skill drain, right? Deck lockdown is kind of the same in that regard, but how many decks can really main deck skill drain, right? Not that many. How many decks can main deck lockdown? Might as well be every deck. So yeah, I hate this card because of this, right? And the fact that this is unsearchable, and but you can just activate it, very epic. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, I forgot. I forgot like a couple back row decks, but yeah, deck lockdown completely demolishes Labyrinth. You cannot activate Big Welcome. You cannot activate Welcome Labyrinth. Every single one of your Labyrinth cards is essentially useless. Uh, yeah. So none of these can realistically do anything meaningful under deck lockdown. So Ariana cannot search. Labyrinth Draglair can only set one of these useless spell traps, which do essentially nothing under lockdown. So very cool. I guess Clue Clock is the most usable one, where if you were to normal summon one of these guys and then Clue Clock, you could activate, I don't know, like D-Barrier perhaps? Daruma Karma Cannon? But I mean, this last 2 turns, so that's probably not going to get you anywhere. And Dynamorphia, I think, is kind of playable. So let's see exactly what this does. Using from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand deck or field as material. So these cards are activatable, but Fossil Pig doesn't work. Therizia doesn't work. Trap Trick does work, I believe, because it sets from deck, but just in general, you're still not going to have a good time with Dynamorphia because half of your searchers are completely dead. And no access to Misk. Well, not as much access. I think Dynamorphia will fare a bit better, I suppose, but yeah. Just backer decks, monster heavy decks, everything is somewhat affected by this. Even Tyr is still affected because it'll cut off access to Crime and Salik. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and hopefully this card doesn't get played too much in the future because right now it is super playable. And it's way more splashable than like a Macrocosmos or a Fissure, and it really beats, like, honestly, any deck that you might consider meta, I'm pretty sure it will be losing to deck lockdown as of currently. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.